Well, I didn't want to come to commission meeting and not say hello, so.
Oh,
officially.
thank you.
So hello. And
You've been busy, aren't you?
I'm very busy.
Yeah.
It's my hunting season, Beard. Even though I don't have a tag, but yeah. I just wanted to say a little bit about District 73. It's really unique. I was talking to the other state legislators and pointed out that there's only 7 out of 75 legislators who have counties of the 4th, 5th, and 6th class in their districts. That's counties that are below 31,000. I've got 7 such counties in my district, and commissioners or representatives like Carl Albrecht have a number in there. So when you get to talking about the problems of small counties at the state legislature, you're talking to a room full of people who really don't deal with that on a day-to-day basis. Conversely, when they talk about problems of housing density and congestion and all of these issues, they're talking to some of us rural commissioners or legislators who don't really deal with that on a day-to-day basis. So I've promised them that I would try to understand their issues if they would try to understand our issues, and that's a big challenge sometimes. The other point that has become really clear to me at the state is that in this system of a federal government and a state government, they exist to protect the freedoms of the people. It's a dual protection for the people, and often it turns into a dual jeopardy, a double jeopardy for the people, because the feds want to regulate, state wants to regulate, counties want to regulate, and sometimes we forget that government is a servant and not a master, and that our job really is to try to keep the people free and prosperous and flourishing and happy and all those things. So with the legislative session coming up, I do have a bill that basically says that that incentives, I'm not a big fan of government incentives, but if they're going to provide incentives, they need to carve out some for what I call underperforming counties, meaning that the strong counties take an interest in the weaker counties, and we work together to make Utah a better place. One thing that I'm really positive of is that the state of Utah is in a really strong position to lead out in the country. Good afternoon. In a great position to lead out, and I just want to see our rural counties participate in that. Right now, they're not participating as fully as they could. There's lots of reasons why that happens. From a state legislature standpoint, I would like to invite you guys to talk to me, to give me your input, and let's see if we can help
That'd be great.
you.
Yeah, educate us.
Okay.
I'd like to know more about it.
Yeah. About this bill?
Yeah.
I guess this is a legislative report.
Keep on going, that's legislative. Absolutely.
I don't want to take up a lot of time, but you take things like the film incentive. I hear that the millions of dollars that the state wants to put into incentivizing film production. I like films. I like those jobs coming here. The problem is that most of those incentives go to companies in counties that their biggest problem they're facing is housing density, population growth, and all those things. Why do we incentivize areas that are already in a red-hot economy? So by saying, okay, we'll have a film incentive as long as we carve out, say, a slice of that 20% that has to go to underperforming counties. So San Juan County, Paiute County, Kane County, all those would be underperforming. Say, okay, if we're going to have an incentive, let's at least try to incentivize those areas that are lacking, and not just in actual financial incentives, but in things like UDOT funding, transportation. One of the greatest incentives that communities have is the infrastructure, the highways. So those things would say, okay, if we're going to have a strong state, we need to make sure that those infrastructure spendings, those funds that are being expended, are forced to be spent at least partially in some of the underperforming counties. We talked a little bit today about Halls Crossing. Well, if you go out to Halls Crossing, Bullfrog, that area, you've got San Juan, King, Wayne, Garfield counties all have a very vested interest in that area. Yet it's restricted so much. You go down to Page, and you can be right up on the lake. You go out here, you have to stay 20 miles away from the lake. You have to respect all that distance, and as a result, you've got 90% of the lake sits in Utah, and 90% of the revenue goes to Arizona.
Mhm.
And we have the ability to maybe affect that with some transportation
Yeah.
adjustments, different things like that.
Yeah.
And it goes on and on. That's just the general engine that drives a lot of other discussion about these underperforming counties. And it just so happens in Utah that your underperforming counties are the small counties.
That bill gonna be on the floor this coming session?
It is, yep. It's one of my priority bills.
Who's
so
sponsoring it?
I am.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, talking about transportation, connected.
Right.
We're working on San Juan County, Utah, Napa Mountain, connecting to 95. So
Yeah.
hopefully capture some of the people that goes to Page and come through and visit.
It's amazing what happens. It's amazing what happens when you create a connection that wasn't there before. You see the economy start to develop.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And for San Juan County, Lake Powell is a huge economic driver that we simply we're being cut off from even participating in it. So, and Utah in general is losing out. It's moving more and more to Arizona. So.
Senator Mike Dimitrich, who was a senator for probably 30 years in the legislature and was a champion for improving the Highway 6 from Spanish Fork over to Price, now has that stretch of the highway named after him. I just want you to think about what would happen if we got a 4-lane highway all the way from San Juan County up to the Wasatch Front. It could be the Phil Lyman Freeway.
I was thinking the Bruce Adams Freeway.
That'd be perfect.
Now that's worth working for.
There you go.
That's motivation. Yeah. Oh, I will say too, on the counties, the strength of the rural counties is that they have commissioners. So I go up to the state legislature. I'm dealing with other state representatives, and you might have a county that has 6 state representatives in their county. I'm a representative that has 21 county commissioners that I can call on to come up and help lobby. So there's the one side where we're kind of underrepresented. There's the other side that if we get together as county commissioners, we can really have our voice heard at the state legislature. So I'm hoping. I don't expect you to drive to Salt Lake for the legislative session a lot, but I do hope that we'll communicate a lot during that. And if you do come up, just know that I want to meet with you and with the other rural commissioners, because there's a lot of good things going on.
You good?
I think we'd all be available to come and testify if there was a need for us to testify on the bill as well.
Well, be thinking about this incentive bill, and I'd love to have you come and testify. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Good.